Hello everyone, it's Jean from the Inky Studio. Thank you so much for joining me. This is part 3 of the French Chateau mini journal with folios. And it's so hard to know what to call these things, but that's what it is. And I want to send out a real big apology because I did upload the same film a video for part 2 as was part 1. Really, I'm so sorry about that. It just shows that I'm human, and sadly on YouTube everyone gets, lots of people get to see how human I am. So I apologize for that, and hopefully you did catch part 2, and I'll put that down below in case you didn't. And so I want to, in this video, I want to show you an idea that I came up with, and I'm going to demonstrate that one, but then I'm going to show you some completed folios and kind of walk you through quickly how I put them together. And this is just to help give you ideas to fill the folios inside a mini journal, or if you have even a larger one, you can just up the scale of the size. So the last one that I did with you, I only used like one layer of a heavy scrapbook paper weight or a cardstock, whichever you have. But I'm going to be using 2 layers in this one. And the tips that I have for that is, cut them both to the size you need, and then score one of them in the middle, like we did with a 1/4 of an inch score. And then I went back in and I marked exactly where those score lines were, so that when I scored this page, it will line up and nest very nicely all together. Now you could score them with them both together, and that works too. I did that one time as well, but the crease, I will say, is a little bit better when you do them separately, but you, by all means, you could do them when they were glued together. So that was just a thought on that. And so another thought I had was, when I went to glue these in, I will glue the spines together first, and that way it kind of is stable for me to glue in the sides. So I just glue those in first, and then once I decide how I'm going to do the sides, and I think for this one here I still want openings up at the top, so I'll just come back in and glue along here. Now, of course, you could sew this, you could put washi tape in here, however you want to close these up, but it kind of helps everything to stay a little bit more even and on point by doing that spine first. Okay, so these are in here. Now, the idea that I came up with was sort of an accordion type of fold out, but how I'm going to hold it inside here is something that I've never done before. It's probably been done hundreds of times, who knows, but I have never done it. So I took a piece of 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and this is some avocado dyed paper here, and I'm going to glue the two ends just a little bit, like a 1/4 of an inch overlap here, to make a very long piece. So I cut this the long way, and then I'm just going to do this little overlap here. Alrighty. Okay, you might want to make sure that you have, it's relatively straight across there when you put them together. So we've got that prepared, and I'll set that aside because it needs to kind of dry. Then I cut a strip, and this is about, this is an inch wide. And I'm going to fold down about an inch, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 1.25 inches on this side here. And I'm going to place it down and put it right up against the edge so that I can measure the fold, where the fold is going to be down here on this end. And that fold will be right about there. Just putting a little line there so I can see it. Okay, and I'm going to fold that under. And of course we have more of an inch here because I cut a long strip. Now I'm going to do a second fold about 1/8 of an inch towards the end. So it's going to be the tiny little, and I'm just doing this by hand because it doesn't really need to be absolutely perfect. It just needs to be a little tiny bit of room like that. And you just want to make sure you fold down towards the end of the paper and not into this area here, because you want to preserve that measurement. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to snip off a little bit because it's just, you don't need to have that extra there. All right, now this is going to, I'm going to wait and glue this in last. Now I'm going to take my strip, big long strip here, and at the end I am going to fold about 1.5 inches over, under, I should say. All right, so what I want to do is I want to glue this onto my page. Right, and I'm going to put it right there in the middle. So let me just go ahead and glue it there. And I'm just putting it in the middle, and I'm just not, I'm getting close to the edge. I'm just not wanting to go over it. So I made sure it was pretty well even here across. And now I got to keep in mind this fold here because I don't want to go over it. So I want to come under it, a little bit. So that first fold then is going to be, past this fold line a little bit. And then I want to make sure that I am pretty even here. See, this is the top of that paper, and I want to make sure that I am pretty even with that. All right. And I'm just going to do an accordion fold going back and forth at these 2 points here, and kind of keeping it straight the best you can. Just keep going back and forth like so. Now when you come to the end, it's kind of up to you if you want to make this a half page, if you want to just go ahead and cut it off. I mean, it just depends on how, the length of your paper and all of that. So I am just going to cut it off. That's what I'm going to do. All right, here. Like so. Okay, so I have this accordion type of fold going on here. Now I'm going to take this, so I don't want to go all the way to the end, of course, not exactly the perfect middle, just a little bit to the right is the best way I can explain that. So you can see that you're just a little off, that's all. And then we will lift this out of here and holding it in place. There we go. We will glue this down, and then we will glue down the bottom of it like so. So I'm trying to make sure it's straight there so it looks, even. And so now we have this little band, and we have this little tiny bit that we folded there, just a little bit. Now we're going to take our accordion and we're going to slip it inside underneath that. And then when we want to write on it, we can pull it out and, do our writing on that side and slip it underneath there when we're done. And then we can also write on the other side. So whichever side, both sides. And this little band then allows us to maybe attach little pieces of ephemera to here as we journal on it, and still have room to slip that underneath there. So that was my idea. I think it's kind of cool, and I think that I might use this in other places as well. It's kind of a fun way to keep the accordion from flying around, and yet, you know, you still have that accordion. Otherwise, you know, you have to figure out some way to make it stay inside. And this is just really, I think, an easy way, all glue, no brads, no nothing type of approach to that. So that was my idea for that. And then you can decorate this. You can, I mean, you can do all whatever you want to. And I'll probably come back and do more to it. So for this line over here, I'm just going to demonstrate a super easy, quick thing to do. And first of all, you want a piece of cardstock that will fit in there fairly well. It'll have to be smaller than your pocket, of course, because you know, the edges do get pretty tight. So just make sure it slips in and out, you know, pretty easily. It doesn't have to go all the way down. You can, in fact, it can go halfway down. Really, it doesn't have to go all the way at all. And then I'm going to take the top of that and I'm going to fold it over, just like so, and burnish that. And then I have some scrap paper here that I've collected, and I collected you know, quite a few little pieces there. I want to make sure that it doesn't go, you know, past my, unless I want it to, but I'm not letting it go past my length of my journal, and so it's sitting in there with you know, about 1/3 of an inch to spare, I would say. I have folded this over. I'm going to take my papers and I'm going to lay them to the flap, right to the flap. I don't want to close this up. I want to lay them just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to take staples. Let me get this straight here. I'm going to take a couple of staples, and where did my stapler go? Here it is. I got it out. I'm going to staple these on each side, like that. I might even reach in and put a third one there in the middle. There we go. That way I caught them all. I'm going to do that there. And now I'm going to decorate this bar here because obviously we don't want that showing. And I've got some pretty paper here that I'm going to put down. And it's a little bit wider, but I'm not going to fuss with it. I'm just going to put glue here because it can be a little bit wider. That's not really an issue. Just going to put glue on the flap itself instead of the strip, and that way I won't be gluing the papers in. Just going to put this down like so. Okay, and cut it off right like that. Okay, now you can cover this with lace, you can cover it with fabric, you know, whatever it is that you think you would like to do with that, you could. You know, instead of putting staples in, you could put fabric and then sew it on. Just make sure that you do not sew onto this back part. You only are putting the front. And that way you can slip this into one of those pockets like so. And this will be even with the top of your journal. So that's a really quick thing too that will, you know, you can put them in any pocket that way. Okay, let me show you some of the other folios that I completed off camera, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing or give you some inspiration. On this particular one, this one is a single layer of paper, and of course I put in my piece of cloth to stabilize the spine part of it. But on the outside, I put in these tabs. Now, you can trace a file folder and cut out the trace line to make a tab, but I made these with the envelope punch. And if you've never done that, let me just give you a really quick show on how to do that. First of all, the size of your tab is going to measure from the middle of this area this way. So this will be what your tab width is going to be. So let's just say I'm just gonna get the scrap piece of paper. Let's say you want your width to be like this. So you want this to be your tab. So you put in your punch you just take a ruler and you're going to cut from this dip to the end, and you're going to measure the same distance from here to there, all along that particular tab. You're going to cut that out. Grab my scissors here. You're just going to cut along that line like that. So there is your tab sticking up there, and then you'll take a rounder punch, a punch that will round the edge for you, and you put that in, and so then you have a tab wherever you'd like to place it. I usually, now to do a middle tab takes a lot of measuring, so I don't usually do that. I usually do just two at a time. But you will want to make sure though that whatever you're putting the tab on is at least, I think this comes out to like a half inch wider than what you need it to be, so that when you put your tab in, it'll stick out beyond where you want the measurement to be. So you want your area to be like this, but you want your tab to stick out. You have to add a half inch onto that. So that is the tips for that. Otherwise, you can just, of course, trace a regular file folder. Then on the inside, I made this cute little folio, not folio, but this little portfolio pocket. And all I did was I found an envelope that I liked, and I wanted a mini one, of course. I steamed it open, right? So this is just an envelope, and you can do this with any one. I traced around and made a template, or used this as a template to trace around and cut out my envelope from the paper. And then what I like about this is you've got these sides that come in to keep things from falling out. And I just merely put in a little button down here with a brad, and then I just sewed on a little bit of ribbon on top of here and go around. You could put in 2 buttons, however you'd like to do it, but I thought that was a very simple way. And then when I glued it in, I made sure I had a pocket there in the back. You know, I used a die cut, but you could definitely trace a square and cut that out and glued that onto there. On this particular one, I left the bottom area a little bit wider than the top, so I have room to put a label or ephemera, whatever, on that. And the last one is pretty much like the other one we made. I put the envelope, flip out envelope, only I put it on this side, and then I took a piece of gross grain ribbon and I sewed on 2 vintage buttons and then glued those kind of at an angle here on one of these pages, so it's a really nice little place to slip in some ephemera. And over here I simply am going to make this tag and clip it in, and so there wasn't too much more there on that side. I still have to make, you know, ephemera for the inside of all the pockets and everything. I still have some more decorating to do, but I just thought, you know, I would show you what I have done so far. So the next time we get together, we will discuss the sewing in of the signatures. And one thing I will say ahead of time, because I'm not sure if I'll just go ahead and sew them in since I've demonstrated that before, or if I'll do them with you. But I am going to sew in with the machine this envelope, and I'm going to sew it in first, because it'll be easier to handle the machine without anything else in here. So if you're using the machine to sew in the cloth envelope, then you want to do that before you put in the paper ones. But then, you know, you might not be doing that. So I just prepared this. I think I showed you in the last video. I just ironed my lines where I want to put my signatures at, and you may want to use a pencil to line them out, because you're not going to see the pencil mark because your folio will cover that up, but you might want to use that instead. So that's up to you. That is how I do plan to put these in. So we'll join up next time and we'll just see how much more we do to finish this project up. Thanks for sticking with me. I so appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. Bye.